Cohort 15 sites that you currently have. So if you'll just take care of that right at this time. Thank you so much.
I'm in now. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You all sound a little down. I expected some more uplifting good mornings. Good morning.
Good
Good morning.
All right, if you haven't already done so, just make sure I know that Alicia told you all to put your name, your LEA, CBO, and your position in the chat box. And you'll have an opportunity to do a survey at the end, and you will receive a certificate for participation in this professional development on today as well.
Ready to move forward,
Yes,
Rebecca?
yes, ma'am, I am. All right, so today what we're going to be covering is Closeout for Cohort 15. And this is really the last process in this particular cohort. So once you've completed this, I'm sorry, I'm Rebecca Pines. I didn't introduce myself for those of you that don't know me. I'm one of the ed specialists here at the State Department. Alicia, is Annette on?
Yes.
Okay, if you could just.
Morning once again, everyone. I'm Alicia Alves. I serve you through the federal programs, and one of the grants that I work with is the 21st Century Grant. And we're here to make sure that you have a successful closeout for today. So this is our orientation.
Okay, and I'm not sure if Annette is on, but also I would like to introduce to you all Mr. Joe Dyer. Is that how you say your last name?
Yes,
Joe?
ma'am.
Okay, he's one of our new TAs, so this is an opportunity. Mr. Joe, you can go on and just say good morning and introduce yourself to them.
Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to be here. I'm a retired school superintendent from Calhoun County. Was a principal and teacher many years, and I'm looking forward to working with you and collaborating for the betterment of these kids.
All right, and Annette has joined us. Annette.
Hello, everyone. It's good to see you. I'm back from vacation, so I'm very excited and energetic today. But we're glad you're here and look forward to collaborating with you, as Joe said, to help you close out and make sure all your goals were met in service with the kids. And I'll turn it over to Alicia and Rebecca.
Okay, and I will get started. I'm not sure if we have any other, we do have some additional TAs. I'm not sure if they're on the call. We have Nicey Eller, and we also have Kim Hendon. Those are some of our new TAs. I'm not able to see if they're on or not. However, we're going to go on and get started talking about closing out for cohort 15. The purpose of this training is to understand that the required process of closing out the 21st Century grant is to stay in compliance with the federal and state guidelines. All right, so the schedule is, we will have a schedule where we will come out or do virtually a closeout process with you. This is required as a part of your grant. The sites, like I said, will either be in person or will be virtual. For those of you that will not be hosting summer programs, your closeout will take place in the month of May. So if you're not hosting a summer program, please be prepared. After we go through this process, you'll have all the tools that you need in order to get everything ready so that we can close you out in the month of May. For everyone else that will be hosting the summer programs, your closeout process will take place September to October. And the time for those closeouts will begin not anytime before 3:30 p.m. so that we are not interfering with those personnel who are working during the academic day at a school. However, if there are some CBOs that require closing out and you don't have anyone that's working within a school during that day, it may be possible that we will have your closeout prior to 3:30. But for all LEAs, definitely your closeouts will not take place before 3:30 p.m. Okay, so now let's get into the meat of closing out your 21st Century grant. There's a process that we have to go through in order to complete your closeout. First of all, there are forms that have to be completed, and there must be signatures, and there's a narrative, and all of these items are given to your assigned TA or the ALSDE person that comes out to do your closeout review. In doing this, the closeout, you have to be prepared to show all of your 21st Century equipment and where it is housed. If you're doing a virtual closeout, then you will be provided with at least three items from your inventory that you will be required to show on the virtual call. You must be able to tell us where that equipment is being housed. We must be able to see the serial number, and we also must be able to see that it has been labeled with the 21st Century markings. Inventory for all housed equipment is emailed, and pieces of equipment, like I said, will be selected from that inventory that you email to your TA. I'm sorry, you all. Hold on. We have someone in our team meeting. Let me tell them to come over to Zoom, please. Hold on just for a moment.
While she's doing that, the last step, well, not necessarily the last step, but one of the steps in the process is we want to make sure that LEAs and CBOs understand that all expenditures are to be made and completed by September 30th. That's a hard deadline date. There's no negotiations with that. That's in compliance with the State Department with finances and as far as you're getting your reimbursement. So keep that in mind, that especially with carryover, that you make sure that you have taken care of your expenditures, your purchase orders, and all of that. Any purchases made after this date will not be honored for reimbursement from the State Department of Education.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. All right, so with our closeout procedures, first of all, you will all receive a formal notification indicating the date and the time of your closeout. Once you receive that, well, actually, I would say at this point, you can go on and start getting your documentation and all of your equipment and your paperwork completed so that when it is time for you to have your closeout review, you will have all of those documents together and it'll be an easier process for you. So on here, we have it's like a little quick guide for you to kind of follow as you're going through preparing your closeouts. Alicia, can you open up the document for me, please? So as we look at the document, I'll go on and start talking to you about it before she opens it up. All of the forms that are required for closeout, they must all be completed. The first part to your closeout is to have a written descriptive narrative. And in that narrative, you have to give us the information as to the retention and the storage of all records, reports, files, and documents, and where all of these documents will be maintained. Those documents must be kept on file for at least 5 years after the end of the grant. So if anything comes up, we will be able to reach out to you and you'll be able to go pull those documents from that particular area where you have those files stored. Also, with the equipment, we will have to, well, you will have to have all of the equipment that was purchased with all of the 21st Century grants from years 1, 2, and 3. All of that equipment has to be maintained either on your site, and we'll get more into this a little bit later on. What's going to happen to that equipment? So whether your program is going to continue or if it's going to end, you have to have a process for what you're going to be doing with that equipment. And part of the paperwork that you're going to have to complete, you will either transfer that equipment to a Title I program. If your program is not a Title I school, it's not being housed at a Title I school, or if it is being housed at a Title I school, you will transfer that equipment over to that particular school. And then if there's something, some equipment that needs to be disposed of, there is a disposal process that goes along with that as well. And that's part of all of the paperwork that you will have to submit when you're completing the closeout. The other thing that you will have to do is you will have to submit your 21st Century equipment inventory list. And there's a copy of this form when we go deeper into this presentation. And on that list, it will have all of the equipment that was purchased. I'm sorry, not on that particular list. On the inventory list, it will have most of the time all of the major purchases that you've made. However, attached with that inventory list, you will also have your purchase orders, your invoices, all of those documents will come along with that inventory list. And that's something that you will have to have turned in when you are going through that closeout process. During your site visit, there will be at least 3 items that are selected. And those 3 items, whether we're in person or virtual, you will have to be able to identify that, have to be able to identify that equipment by the marking that is placed on the equipment, in addition to that serial number, and most importantly, where that equipment will be housed. And then finally, the other thing that you will have to do, if you're going to be transferring equipment, there is a transfer form that has to be completed. And remember that all of these documents that we have, they are all require signatures. So they must all be signed and they must be all be fully completed. And All these documentations must be emailed or gotten to your TA prior to your visit with the closeout. Alicia.
Okay, so my documents are not readily available, so we're just going to talk, but you'll have access to these documents. So she's already expressed to you that you have some closeout instructions that'll be given to you. You'll get a formal letter indicating that which sites are to be closed out in the process. So you'll have written documentation throughout this process. But one of the things that we want to make sure that is addressed with the process is what we call the written narrative that is submitted along with those documents. So the first thing you have to do when you're doing the narrative, it doesn't have to be something that requires 2 and 3 different pages. You just want to answer these 4 questions or give an explanation to these 4 statements. You want to make sure though that if something is not applicable to you, you just need to say that it's not applicable to you. But do not skip any of the required areas to be addressed. So like for the first one is asking you to explain what is your retention and storage process of retaining or how you're going to store your records, your reports, your files. And that is so that if in an event that we have to come back and get any documentation, that we have something on file on where to go and who to talk to or where it's located. For 2, we need to know whether or not you as a grantee will apply for cohort 17, or if not, what are you going to do as an after-school extended day program? You need to answer that. And then number 3, you will also need to answer if you are not going to have an after-school program, if you're not going to be a cohort 17, then what are you going to do with retaining the equipment that has been purchased with the 21st century funds? So you want to make sure that you indicate in number 3 whether or not this is pertaining to you. If it is pertaining to you because you're not going to apply for the cohort 17 grant, then you would need to indicate that if the sites for each site that your 21st century program is being ran from, then you need to let us know if those sites are Title I schools, because if they are Title I schools, then that means that the equipment remains there at that Title I school. If the sites that are housing the 21st century program is not a Title I school, then you must tell us that each site, name the site and tell whether or not it's a Title I school, and then tell us that the equipment is then going to be transferred to another 21st century program. That is not a non-negotiable. This is something that has already been outlined when it comes to this process. So we want to make sure that we follow these guidelines. So just keep that in mind if that is the case. And then number 4, you have to give us the process of how you're disposing any equipment that needs to be disposed of. Remember, equipment should be housed up to 5 years. But if you are going to dispose of anything, what is that process? What does that look like for your organization? So for the closeout information, you will receive you will have access to a form such as this. And with this form, it is very, very important that all components are completed. Every part of it, you need to make sure you list all your sites that are considered cohort 15 and who the program manager is. What is the final date of the program? When is the final date of your fiscal closeout? And this information may cause you to have some conversation with other people outside of just being the program or, director or the site coordinator. You will need to let us know when the inventory was completed, and then you have attach a copy of your inventory list with this closeout form. You will also need to have, if any equipment was transferred, then you need to put on that line the date that that transfer form was completed. Have you made sure that all the expense reports have been turned in? If so, then you put the date of when all of that is, or when will be the last date for expenditures to be paid out or reimbursed. And then this is another biggie as well. When it comes to GEPRA and EASY reports, all of your data, who is the person who completed that? So you need to put their name and the date that they actually completed it. Please do not date or put anyone's name or yourself if you have not completed these different tasks. It's very important that we follow this particular form. And then where are your records and documentation going to be kept, okay? Remember, everything should be retained for a period of 5 years from the closeout date when it comes to the documentation part of it. And then what's your plan for inventory? Who did the closeout with you, the closeout official and the title? And then the TA or the LSDE representative will sign off. And then there should be another witness to say that this information is accurate and we can follow its guidelines. So, you know, if you have any questions about this process, especially this form, because I do get a lot of questions about it and needing further explanations, please reach out to your TA or to Rebecca or myself to make sure that you understand this process, because it's very crucial, because it is used for documentation and references if we have anything such as auditing or anything that's taking place. So she mentioned the equipment inventory list. This form right here, we want to make sure that we're using the correct form. Make sure that this is the form. It looks like this. It has a recent year at the bottom of it as well, but I have also been able to make it into a PDF fillable form as well, because we need to be able to read the writing of it. This is very crucial as far as letting us know the description of the equipment. You either have the serial number or the model number for it, purchase order number of when it was purchased, the purchase order date, how many, cost per item. So the total cost that you have of it, the location where we can find this equipment, if it was disposed of, what is the disposal date? And also, at the very top, you want to make sure that you have the correct year that's referencing the information below. So make sure that year is correct. If you have, you can make several copies of this page. If that's the case, please indicate at the far right corner. We also need to make sure that the appropriate signatures are here, the title and the position. And whoever checks your inventory will sign off and date at the very bottom. But I just want to say, please use the fillable on this. We do not want this in handwriting so that we can see things and not have it confused because we may not be able to read the writing. So this is a fillable document.
And also, Alicia, I would like to also make a note or just let them know that this is a document that is a part of the Cognia process. So you all should pretty much have these forms already in place along with your purchase orders and inventories. So it should be relatively easy for you to put these documents together because it is a part of what is being uploaded into Cognia.
Okay, so this form is only completed if in your narrative you indicated that you were going to be transferring inventory based on the fact that you're not going to have the program. And if you are not going to have the 21st Century program, then you are going in the site that the equipment is currently being housed, or the students that was receiving the 21st Century program is a Title I school, then you need to complete this form. So if ABC Elementary School is a Title I school and ABC Elementary School is no longer going to have the 21st Century grant, then I need to have this form completed in its entirety, as well as the signatures and showing who is going to be receiving this equipment. The equipment should say that it is going to ABC Elementary School. This is not where you can negotiate and say you want it to go to another school or somewhere else. It has to say with where that 21st century program is being housed, if that school is a Title I school. If that school is not a Title I school and you're no longer going to house the 21st century program, then it would need to go to the nearest 21st century program. If you have any questions as to whether or not who that is, please contact us so that we can make sure that we have this form completed and the equipment transferred to the correct site. So this is only completed if it's applicable. If it's not applicable to you, you can just put in A on the form or don't submit the form. But I don't want you to feel that you have to complete something that is not applicable to you. So if the first two are not applicable, just remember, just put in A, but you cannot transfer any equipment if you're going to still have the 21st century program at that particular site.
I have a question. I have a
Go ahead.
question. The
Yes.
question, if you're applying for the grant and you're in limbo and don't know if you have or received it, do you still need to fill out the transfer form?
This is only if you know. You should know, hopefully, by towards the end of your grant ending, which ends September 30th. And by the time your TA has reached out to you, there should be some kind of idea. If not, just contact your TA to figure out how we can go ahead and get that taken care of. All right, so when it comes to your site visits, if you're a grantee that's chosen to do a site visit rather than a virtual visit, you will need to have your inventory list. You will have your hard copy and your TA is going to request that prior to your visit. And when we come, we're going to want to see your inventory list. We're also going to ask to see where you're housing your equipment for 21st century. And then based off of what we're seeing, it could be off of the inventory list or even what we are seeing, we will document pieces of equipment that has been viewed to make sure that it has been appropriately identified. And the appropriate identification is the same process that you've gone through when it comes to touring, which is making sure that you have the 21st century labeling on that equipment and making sure that you also have that the serial number is also located on the inventory list and it matches what is on the actual piece of equipment, or if it's the model number. If you are going to be virtually, this information that I just talked about will be requested prior to your visit, to your virtual conference or meeting, and we will request that, and you will need to have it ready to be shown virtually. And on site, the same process will go just as I just indicated in the previous slide. There is a checklist that provides you with everything of what this process looks like, whether it's virtually or whether or not it is face-to-face. So you will have access to this checklist. I suggest that you use this as your guide because it tells you exactly which forms to look at. And you would also indicate whether or not you would, if you have it or not, but the TA will indicate whether or not you have it or not. I will go ahead and pre-do my checklist for myself, just to show that, I had done my due diligence and I know these things have been done. The written narrative is on the checklist. That's a component that we have to sometimes go back pretty regularly, to be honest, and ask for. So just make sure that everything that's on the checklist that we've mentioned is actually been done and that you've gone over it prior to the TA or a state representative coming out for your visit, or if it's done virtually. Compliance monitoring is a part of the closeout. And so during the closeout, we will be looking to make sure that any recommendations or findings that were made prior to the closeout date have been addressed and have been uploaded into Cognia for fiscal year 23. So compliance monitoring is a part of the closeout. It's not a separate entity. We want to make sure that 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 in accordance with the guidelines with closing out, that the compliance monitoring itself has been closed as well. When it comes to returning funds, if you have been approved for a new grant and for the 21st Century Grant, and you did not spend all of your funds for fiscal year 23, that money does not roll over into the new cohort for cohort 17. So it's not going to transfer. All of your spending and everything needs to be done by September the 30th. That is to include if there was someone who decided, a grantee that decided we're no longer going to have the 21st Century Grant and you have some funds, you need to make sure that you have taken care of all of your spending and that your, when it is, and also let me just say this, if you're not going to have the 21st Century Grant and you're trying to spend, when you send your proposal to us, that based on the timing of when the request is put in, as well as the number or the opportunity for students to actually have access to the equipment, will also make a determination as to whether or not that spending will be approved. So, and the rationale for that is the 21st Century funds is for 21st Century. And if it's not going to be used, if the 21st Century program is not going to be implemented at the site anymore, or is not going to continue, or if there's no type of after-school program that's not going to be continued, we do not want to spend funds and it's not being used as it was allocated or intended for it to be used for. So if you have any questions about the timing of trying to get your carryover spent in a timely manner, please reach out to us so that we can guide you through the process, especially if you know that you're not going to be using the 21st Century grant for the next fiscal year. So what's next? Once a grantee has reached the end of the 21st Century Grant in the best interest of students and communities in whom you serve, you should have a plan in place for either reapplying for the 21st Century Grant or some other grant, because the rationale for having this grant is so that the community and students have access to continuing of education from the school hours or academic school hours of the day to continue learning. And 21st Century Grant is meant to have like give you a sense of direction of providing this type of a service in the community. So it's very important to have a plan on what's next. If you all decide that you don't want to use the 21st Century Grant, reach out to us so that we can help guide you on that process of planning so that it's not completely just dropped, that there's some form of way in which the community is still being served to families through the 21st Century Grant to extend learning from the academic school day.
And Alicia, one other thing that I would like to say here is that with all of the sites, you all have that advisory council. Those are the persons, if you decide that you're not going to have a 21st Century Grant, those are the people that you need to be reaching out to assist you with providing you with ideas on how to continue providing services to students within your community.
Okay, so we would like to know your feedback on this information that we've shared with you today. We also want to know how we can better serve you. So you're welcome to click, use your camera and scan in this link where you can go in and actually complete the survey. And Rebecca's also going to put in the chat
Yes, ma'am.
the link for you. And that is so that we can better service you all with this process.
And also, I've already placed it in the chat box. So once you complete that, please go on and complete it and make sure you complete it in its entirety, because at the end of your completion, you will receive a certificate for professional development that you can utilize. So, but once you've completed the survey, the link is not working in the chat. Okay, so hold on a minute. Let me try to. Give me just a moment, but I'll put it in again so that you can get it. Give me just a moment, please. But what I was going to say is that after completing it, you will receive a certificate of completion.
While you're working on your survey, just know that if there's any questions concerning the forms, please reach out so that when you turn in all your forms, everything is completed. We wanted to make sure that we got to you all in a timely manner so that you can pace yourselves to complete this process so that it can be accurate the first time and we don't have to disturb you while you're working on something else to go back and provide us with information that wasn't completed or that was missing, because we do have to house it here at the State Department for auditing purposes. So just keep that in mind. If you have any questions about any of those forms or the process, please reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to speak with you to go through that process. While you're going through your survey, are there any questions that you have concerning the closeout process?
Hey, when did you guys say that we would get this information with the papers and documents?
It'll be ready when Erica does her next posting of information. So that should be Friday.
She indicated that all forms will be on the website today in a closeout form, or
Great.
I'm assuming folder.
Folder, yes, thank you.
Thank you, Erica.
And I'll send out on Friday too, but this way y'all can get it ASAP.
And I placed a link in the chat box, so please let me know if you're unable to access it.
Ned, did you have any questions or anything you would like to say or missed? Stepped out. All right, so we'll just leave that up for you. Like we said, if you have any questions, let us know. Concludes our meeting. And so once you've completed your survey, you're welcome to just log out and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you very much.